Welcome to We Are CC, episode number 25, maybe, probably. I'm Mr. Poppy. I'm joined today with Mr. And although his name on Reddit says otherwise, it's Mr. X. So we're three Misters here today. I didn't even think about it. It's a little weird. So, gentlemen,
Can I just claim the OG Mister, or is that not allowed to?
I guess since you got the double Mister, yes, you can have the OG. And I don't know what's wrong with your PFP on Reddit, Mr. X, but it just says NSFW.
That's because it's not safe for work, sir.
Oh, if you're talking, you're super quiet.
How about that? Is that better?
No, you're still. Is it just me?
Sounds good for me.
Okay, let's roll with that then. I'll examine as we go. There must be something up. Yeah. So, gentlemen, how are we feeling? This was what I was saying earlier to some folks. If I was a bear, I'd be feeling a little bit sweaty, right? I'd be a little bit nervous right now.
We're looking like a swing, man. I've been watching Momentum for a while, and we're getting that synchronization of the daily, the weekly, and the monthly Momentum cycles, and I thought we were going to dip down a little more and maybe touch like 16.2 or 13.8 and have another nasty step down, but I'm not so sure anymore.
You know, I like the sync up on the multiple time frames, that's for sure. What kind of worries me, though, is RSI is running a little bit hot across the board. So, you know, the sync up is good. Maybe we get a little bit of a pullback before we keep up the rally. But yeah, it feels good. Feels good.
The biggest thing for me on Momentum is what the monthly looks like, and that's where the big boys want to play, because you know when you got enough money and you're actually trading, you know, by hand, you want to trade as little as possible. So you're probably trading the highest time frames, and the monthly is lined up real good. So like if I'm in between vacations and I'm looking at a chart to drop whatever 50 million, 100 million, now's the time.
Wow. I mean, do you have that kind of money? Because if so, maybe hit me up on the side there, sir.
You need some? I'll bid some out for you later.
I mean, I'll come up with an NFT project in like 30 minutes if you got that kind of money, you know.
You're gonna draw me some rocks.
Yeah, ETH rocks.
Boys.
I saw an argument this week. Well, not an argument, more of a you know, the Bored Ape. There's some Bored Apes that were doing a little bit of trash talking. Can't blame them. Bored Apes did well over the past year, but they were doing some trash talking, and a dude comes in talking about the ETH rocks. He's like, "Well, the floor in ETH rocks is like way higher. I don't even know what it's at right now, but it's probably like in the multiples of millions." In fact, we should look that up while we're going through the podcast.
I still can't do NFTs, man. Still can't do it.
So I've been watching the chart too. I think what's beautiful is when if anyone listening makes their own charts or does their own analysis, the most beautiful thing is the symmetry that you get when the candle or the wick on the candle perfectly aligns to like a level or a box or something that you drew. I just love it. And that's exactly what I have going on. You know, that chart I have that shows the lower value range, then a gap, and then the next higher value range around 28 to 30K. Man, the wick is just bouncing perfectly off of that gap. And I think I was talking to Eamon, for those who know, I was talking to him about that earlier. That's the thing that a lot of people in the space are watching right now, is that in terms of just historical volume, historical trading, there's really not a lot going on between like 24K and 28K. And so what we don't want to see probably is like just zooming all the way up to 28K from here, but it is possible. I think it would be great if we could kind of fill that gap up a little bit, and you know, maybe spend a couple months in that range, you know, between 30K and say mid 20s. I don't know if it'll happen, but that would be great. Build a little bit of support there.
Yeah, we got this.
Yeah, it'd be really.
We got this 3-tap on 24,000, and you know, it's knocking on the ceiling 3 different times on the daily. And I'm pretty sure that we're gonna break out of it here. If not this, then soon. It's all going up, and then we've broken out. You know, my 2 downward channels that I've been tracking, Poppy.
Mm-hmm.
It's gets out of that. And if we do snap up, maybe we'll find support at like 26, and we can just crab there for a while
that would be, yeah, that would be interesting. Anything under 28 is going to be an interesting play that I don't think there's a lot of high confidence on the lower time frames where we would rest there. For me, the key levels that I'm really watching is one, you have that resistance. It's extending from November. So November, when the Fed first came out and said, hey, we got to do something about this inflation, that's when the markets all started to go south. That resistance level is currently, if you go straight above us, is right around 27.5K. And then right above that is a very popular historical support band for moving averages, the 20 and 21 week. And that's sitting between like 28.5 and 29K right now. So I think if I was feeling super bullish, we would close over 30K and we would look like we were going to hold it. I would feel moderately bullish if we just get over like say 24.5 and close in that range and look like we're going to hold it.
If we recaptured 30K, that would build a lot of confidence in sentiment.
Mm-hmm. FOMO, mega FOMO. That's mega what you FOMO. Would see. Yeah, giga mega FOMO is what would kick in. And people like me, I did increase the pace of my dollar cost averaging. So for those who, follow us, we preach the dollar cost average. And if we had dipped lower, I would have increased the pace of it. Now just seeing the strength over the past couple weeks, I have increased the pace. I still have, I don't know what I'm at now, maybe 30% of my stables are still stables because I don't want to get too greedy. This could be a short-lived move, or it could be a move that say taps 28K and just dumps. Nothing's guaranteed here. We're just talking about possibilities. But I do think that there's more upside, especially for Ethereum going into the merge, that transition to proof of stake. Although there could be a lot of volatility, I want to be positioned to at least have a decent bag of Ethereum going into that. That's me, right? I don't know about you guys. Are you looking at Ethereum, or maybe you're looking elsewhere? But you can't deny that Ethereum is going to dominate headlines in the next month or two.
Yeah, and especially if we get any kind of guidance against what's expected right now in September, right? The timeline is we're going towards the September. I think it's going to be really interesting to see if we get any sort of guidance around that time, whether or not it's delayed again. I think that's going to have a material impact on price action. But right now it's, super good about Ethereum right now. To your point about maybe BTC tapping the 28K target and doing a little bit of a pullback, I think that would be healthy. Like what we're saying with the straight shot up to 30, that just wouldn't be healthy, right? It'd be great for the sentiment. It'd be great for all holders, but long-term sustainable rally perspective, that wouldn't be the best. Like Mr. X was saying, it'd be great if we could just recapture key levels and consolidate there, just build the foundation, right? Build that liquidity base there, and then continue to move upward. But it's we're talking about game theory spread across potentially millions of traders, so it's really hard to predict that kind of stuff. But I think sustainable rally would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
For me, I've been stacking since June 4th is when we crossed my lowest moving average, and that was my accumulation zone. So I haven't sold a single thing since June 4th. However, I did accidentally send like $50 worth of Polygon to Ethereum network on accident because I had it selected as Polygon network at the point of origin, and then Ethereum network as the point of destination. Whoops. So, $50 loss across since June 4th, I'm okay with that. But I've been accumulating alts, maybe a little too much confidence in the swing because I've really outweighed my Bitcoin holdings at this point. But I got a lot of good players, and so I'm feeling pretty good about it. Yeah. Even if we do dip down, I've still got dry powder on the side too. just in case.
I think that's the key. Even if we just go crazy, let's say we just hit another bull run, even a moderate bull run. It's okay to not have put all of your cash on, sitting on the sidelines in. You just never know what's going to happen. And it is nothing worse than seeing, like, imagine you went all in, over the past year, you went back in when Bitcoin tapped, like, say 30K, and you said, all right, I'm sure it's not going to go any lower based on my analysis. And that's fine. If that's what your analysis led you to, you trade whatever you've put work and effort and research and time and energy into, that's what you do. But nothing's guaranteed. So then it goes lower. What do? You just sit there and you watch and you wait and you're underwater that whole time. It's no fun. It's a lot more fun, even if you just have a little bit of your port left to put some dry powder in. That's why I always try to keep a little bit on standby no matter what.
Same. Yeah, I learned that a long time ago. Always should have a little bit of dry powder because, there's all these crazy moves that can happen at any time for whatever you might be looking at. We're not even specifically talking about Bitcoin. You might have your favorite alt have like a 30% dump from a rumor or whatever. And then boom, you've got a little bit of dry powder to snatch that up and DCA a little bit. So it's always a good idea to have a little dry powder on the side because nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up alts though. I've had an outsized port focused on altcoins this year, and that's not to downplay Bitcoin. Bitcoin and Ethereum, to me, number 1 and 2, should always have a strong presence in your portfolio. And for less experienced traders, or those who want to manage their risk as much as possible, only do those two, or majority only, majority of those two. But as you move out that risk spectrum, you can play in altcoins more. And I've accepted a little more risk this year. I've been going deeper on altcoins because I've just been watching how Bitcoin dominance has responded to this bear cycle. And it's not like it has been in past cycles where it kind of shook out more of the altcoin market between having stable coins and then having more mature altcoin projects. There's a lot less incentive than we used to see in earlier cycles for everyone to just move right back into Bitcoin when things start going south. Instead of that, I think most people, or at least a lot more people, went to stables and then to some degree to other altcoin projects that for a lot of them have held up pretty well, even if they have obviously dropped a lot compared to historical cycles, not nearly as much.
Yeah, they're actually coming out with some good stuff, and they're not just that; they're being backed up by good companies like you heard about Disney putting Polygon and like 5 other projects into a think tank, and they're just going to grind on that. So I'd find that pretty promising. Disney's not going anywhere for a while, so they might
Mickey Mouse Metaverse.
Oh my gosh.
More like the Star Wars metaverse. That's what I'm waiting for.
Okay, yeah, that would be a little bit cooler. I'll give you that.
Boy, that was strategic, wasn't it? What an acquisition! What a time!
That'd be great. And then you get the Marvel MCU decks,
Baby Yoda,
Marvel themed decks. Let's do it, Baby Yoda atomic swaps. Well, let's go.
Mandalorian weapons.
So let's I guess in terms of the macro, are we going to see, I know we don't have any FOMC until September, but I do believe we still have CPI report coming out this week, right?
Yeah, CPI coming out on Wednesday, I believe. We just had the late last week, right? We just printed the jobs report. So, we had some pretty, you can read it either way, but I think in general, the market read the jobs report as well. And we're seeing the fallout from that positivity kind of extending into today. So I think it's all eyes on the CPI print on Wednesday. We'll just see where that goes. What do you think? We're going to be still running hotter, less hot?
I did see some mixed thoughts. If you really analyze that jobs report, it may not have been as good or bad, depending on what position you took, as you might think, which means to me there's just a lot of indecision. But for the most part, people are, I think taking a bullish stance, at least as far as where we're concerned, it doesn't hurt that the largest fund is it the largest fund in the world, BlackRock? Bless you. Committing to entering the Bitcoin market finally after years and years of trash talking us. So, I mean, they manage trillions of dollars. So I don't know how much their clients are going to want to invest in, but I am sure that they're going to want to buy at, these levels or lower.
10 trillion. They manage $10 trillion of the world's whatever assets and money and investments and so forth.
That's wild.
And there is currently $40 trillion of cash in circulation in the world.
Oh, that's of cash.
Which is an interesting
perspective. Under management.
Yeah, no,
it is.
Yeah, total assets and cash and everything is, I think, around. If what I was reading was correct, so you can look it up yourself. But I think it's around $1.3 quadrillion worth of everything.
1.3 quadrillion. Oh, you mean including like?
Yeah, investments and all the stuff and everything that we've got that's worth anything.
Well, that's even more than the SHIB total supply. I was going to make a joke about the 600 billion token supply, but or they're not quite that high.
But hey, they're burning tens to hundreds of thousands a day, so at least it's making a dent, right? What is that, like 50 to 100, maybe $200 worth of burn a day?
Yeah. I don't know what it adds up to over the long run, but I know it helps manage your supply when you have a big one. That's also going to be one of the prevailing themes when Ethereum switches to proof of stake, right? Doesn't the total output of Ethereum drop like something crazy, like 90%?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but it starts to become more deflationary, right? And getting the burn mechanism through transactions to really lead that, I think, it should help with price action. It does, however, for me, move Ethereum out of that place of being really egalitarian, right? Giving everybody a shot, and it does start to move it into wealth, right? Accumulation kind of asset class, right? Where the more you have, the more you're going to benefit, and the folks with the most are going to benefit the most. It does come with that downside, but for the most part, I think from the way the chain will work going forward, it should right, become faster and a little bit cheaper. We'll just have to wait and see just how much cheaper it becomes. But I think overall, I'm optimistic. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, don't quote me on that 90%, but I do know that overall the proposition is that it's a bullish event. That's this is the funny thing is every time we come up to these big milestones for the big boys, there's always a little bit of drama that comes with it. In this case, there's questions over, will the miners try to complicate things because maybe they're not happy. We're moving off of proof of work and into proof of stake. Will big companies follow? Big protocols follow? Will stable coins follow the proof of stake? I think overwhelmingly the answer is almost definitely yeah. I mean, everyone's going to follow what I'll call the main chain, whatever it's called. They're going to follow the proof of stake. It's where the Ethereum Foundation's going. It's where Vitalik's going. But that doesn't mean that if there's a proof of work chain that remains active, if ETC remains active, maybe they're the same, one and the same. I don't know how they're going to do it.
I think you're right that they're going to follow the proof of stake because Ethereum has already created its value from being proof of work. I think if Ethereum had started as proof of stake, it might not have had such a fantastic impact on the world, or at least not as quickly.
But what kind of itches at my brain on that one though is value that hasn't been realized from all the mining hardware, right? The capital cost, right? The capital expenditures on all that mining hardware that hasn't returned yet. There's got to be a ton of hardware out there that's just not in the black, right? They're still operating, they're still trying to recoup the initial cost of the hardware. What happens with miners hardware that isn't in the black when we do switch over, right? Because it's that kind of
Monero,
hardware
sir.
is
That's what happens.
Monero. Well, they're right. I
Monero.
mean, they're gonna
Monero is
have
going to
to.
get a
They're gonna have.
huge influx of miners from this, I bet you.
Well, that I think that's an interesting idea. Your thoughts more on that, because for me, I would need to be redeploying that hash capacity on mining hash capacity that is underwater still, that is operating at a loss right now.
Yeah, because
It
realistically,
just doesn't make
Monero
sense.
limits your hash power somehow. I'm not really intricately familiar with but it's like the Crypto Night protocol, and so you can't overpower it with enormous warehouses of miners. So yeah, there's going to be other proof of work protocols that people will move to, I would imagine, to try to recoup.
You know what I would love if we could get a actual Ethereum miner. I know Oz has done some mining before, but get someone on here with us to talk about this. I'm curious whether or not some of the hardware that they have now for mining could be repurposed to run a node for the proof of stake. And I don't know the answer to that. Probably different.
Yeah. Well, no, I would assume that a lot of them can be repurposed for that, but then these mining rigs are so powerful, right? And they're so good at that one intended purpose. I don't know how easy it'll be, number one, but number two, I think it'd be a little bit of a waste to throw them at just being a node, right? Being a validator. That might be kind of using a butcher knife for what you need a butter knife for,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe that's something to think about. If there's someone out there that's an active miner that has a lot of insight into that and interested in chatting with us, send me a message. Would love to spend an episode, or maybe a separate episode. Maybe we have a little bit of a discussion about that separately, Mr. X, like some of your AMAs.
About mining, you mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mining, the merge.
I'm actually I'm planning on building a little Raspberry Pi Bitcoin USB stick solar wind powered independent miner that I can just literally put out into a field. I've got some extra parts laying around. I have an extra car battery, so I'm gonna hook it up. Amazing. It's gonna be my free power Bitcoin lottery miner, and it will just mine from the Earth's energy for free all the time. So if I hit it, great. If I don't even care, because I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah, that's one of those.
You just need that one block that has that
just
one.
It only see, that's where people get confused. It literally only takes one hash to mine the reward block. Okay, so if you're mining in a pool, this whole proof of work mining isn't profitable anymore. That's all BS. It's all BS. It's the pool mining that screws you. Okay, now if you're if you have the level of hardware that it is profitable for you to share, if you got your own friends or whatever, fine, do that. That's great. Pool mining is for some people, but the original vision from Satoshi, in my opinion, was that everybody gets a fair shot. And the only way to do that is to solo mine, period. Okay? Because then my little Raspberry Pi might only be getting 100 hashes per second or whatever against this warehouse that's getting quadrillions of hashes per second. Okay, but my hashes have an equal chance as any of their hashes. They have more. Okay, and so it makes it less likely that mine will get hit, right? But I like those odds better. So I'm super against pool mining, really for solo mining, and I really hope it makes a comeback, because pool mining didn't even start until, what was it, November of 2010 or something, or 2009? Like after it had all started and he was going and going. Solo mining's the way to go. And I think it'll make a comeback eventually. People are going to catch on that it's worth it. Even if I just ran a Raspberry Pi by itself connected, I'm doing the solar and wind thing for fun. just as
Hmm.
a fun project to do. But even if I had it running off my power, it would cost me like less than $5 a month to run it. Okay, that's worth it. That I could never buy a lottery ticket again and just run that and be super happy with my life. Because I would much rather hit that lottery, you know.
Yeah, and you can go to certain websites too. If someone's interested in mining, there are many different chains that you can mine against. A lot more than just Ethereum and Bitcoin.
Yeah, you were talking about Ravencoin recently. I think I'm going to look into trying
I,
that out.
I
I've been
just
playing
remember
around.
last year that the Ravencoin was one of the more profitable ones, I guess. But I'm not really, I'm not a miner.
Yeah, that
I
might
don't,
not still be true. So
and it may not be true, but there's websites out there like whattomine.com that goes over like the hardware and the different chains and like how long it takes you to break even mining certain things. And it's fun to play with if you're thinking about it. I mean, it can take as little as just getting like you said, a little Raspberry Pi, or maybe more moderately sized like a video card. Or if you really got the money, go get yourself like an ASIC, or go just set up a whole server room in your house and
yeah, even
go to
just
town.
one ASIC. I mean, if you've got the extra money to drop the 12 grand on an ASIC miner, it might not be a bad idea, man. Even the resale, you run it for however many years you want to run it. Even the resale is going to bring you like whatever 5 grand.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, there's a bit of a resale value to that.
Mm-hmm.
So for this week, I asked you guys to try something new, to come up with some topics that you wanted to talk about. And so I'm going to start with you, Mr. X. What is it that you would love for the community and for us to chat about here?
I love this topic. This is about BlackRock, which we were talking about earlier, and they have a partnership with Coinbase now to expose their clients to Bitcoin. They're starting out with Bitcoin specifically, okay, and they are somehow integrating Coinbase into their Aladdin. I think it's their trading platform that they use, and so you get on Aladdin, you can trade your stocks or whatever investments that you have, and they're going to include exposure to Bitcoin. So all the articles that you're reading are a bit misleading. It's not like $10 trillion is just going to get dumped into the cryptoverse, but $10 trillion worth of investors' money will be looking at the option to purchase Bitcoin. And in the future, they do plan on exposing them to other cryptocurrencies too, which I don't think they mentioned yet. So that's what I want to talk about. What does this mean for the cryptoverse? What kind of impact do you think this is going to realistically have, aside from all the hype articles that you read? And more importantly, I wanted to note how phenomenally strategic it was to introduce this partnership right at the bottom of the momentum cycle. I mean, right at the bottom. This is like, you know what I'm saying? Like they just sniped that. Like, let's set this up so that we're on the way up.
I think the worst part wasn't Kathy Wood from ARK Investments. Didn't she sell her Coinbase holdings like days before that announcement was made?
I don't know. I heard something about her recently. That
I have to verify that, but I thought I read that somewhere. And if so, boy, that's a painful one, because Coin definitely bounced hard there. Yeah, they really called it. They did very well. And, I don't believe that the news is going to coincide with when they may have, or may not have, but I believe they probably would have made their purchase there. They got to be too smart to wait until we started to recover. And that's the kind of thing, too, that takes time to negotiate. I mean, you don't just decide today you're going to do it and make a press release.
No, they've been waiting for this, man. They've been waiting for this. Because think about it. Like, when you're the biggest investment manager in the freaking world, okay, you have the absolute best guys on top. So without being able to be sure, and this is not financial advice, but man, how bullish of a signal is that the biggest investment manager in the world is like, okay, now let's get into Bitcoin?
Hmm. Yeah, I think the
Can someone
closest.
tag
Mhm.
can someone tag Elizabeth Warren on this one, please? Just I think it'd be hilarious.
So, I think the closest comparison you can get to BlackRock in this case is going to be Grayscale. Now, Grayscale is unfortunately kind of trapped with their GBTC and waiting for an ETF. But in terms of their holdings, I mean, now they've shed a little bit, but they have about 640,000 Bitcoin, which is currently like 14, almost $15 billion. Obviously, BlackRock could easily invest that much. I don't know that they're planning to at this stage, but that's going to give you kind of an indication. And then the types of investments they have. Grayscale used to be really heavy into what I would call like boomer coins. Like they really have, for example, last I checked, they were the largest holders proportionally of ETC, Ether Classic, which it has
make any sense.
has
I don't
been
know why
in
they're
the,
holding ETC. They're still subject to 51% of tax, like recently. That doesn't make any sense to me.
but in terms of just the holdings, I mean, it probably has paid off for them if they ever wanted to sell it. That's certainly gone up. But then, a lot of other stuff is from like a lot of its older projects like Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, ETC, Zen, Stellar, XLM. Now they have started dipping their toes into newer stuff though, like Solana. If you remember last year, they got into like BAT, Mana for some metaverse exposure. But overall, I think their holdings are kind of a little bit slow to keep up with market trends, right?
What do you want to bet that? What do you want to bet that BlackRock was holding the reins on the Bitcoin ETF until they were ready?
Possible.
What do you want to
I
bet?
wouldn't put it against them.
What do you want to
Yep, I
bet
wouldn't-
that in the near future we see the Bitcoin ETF, the spot ETF, hit the market? Because behind the scenes, I mean, think about it. BlackRock runs everybody. They've got everybody in their pocket, man. So what do you want to bet they were pumping the brakes on that ETF until they
Yeah.
It would make
decided they
sense,
wanted to hit it?
especially with a lot of former policymakers on the board as an advisor, right, helping on Team BlackRock, right?
Mhm.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Watch
I hope it's not
Gary
happening
Gensler
because
change his tune here soon, guys.
Yeah, the crypto lobby is
little Gary.
fairly weak compared to a lot of the traditional financial market lobbyists. I mean, that could coincide too, depending on how you look at the charts. I mean, I was talking to someone today. What was I looking at? I was looking at something and I made the comment. I don't remember why now. I think it was following the high time frame pattern of support and resistance on Bitcoin and looking at how maybe like late September to October, maybe a chance to break out of this pattern, just visually looking at the geometry of it, nothing else. And that gets closer to when the US finishes its study on crypto regulations. It's maybe there's something to be said there where we see it all kind of fall into place by the end of the year. Gary changes his tune, the regulatory climate clears up a little bit, and BlackRock calls in some favors on their senators and says, all right, let's go.
So
I definitely would almost expect that to be the case. On the other hand, I really hope it isn't, because that just kind of reinforces and validates everyone's assumption that the system is broken and it's corrupt, right? We just don't need any more of that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, the system is broken, corrupt, unfortunately.
Yeah, but we don't need we don't need any more in your face like confirmations of that, do we? I mean, we know it at this point. It'd just be nice to just get a break from like just not above board activities that are happening out there. Which actually would I don't want to cut off the talk on BlackRock prematurely, but if we're talking about not so right above board activities and regulation and this and that. That does
Do you
take me
think
to
decides
my talking point.
what those regulations are, Mister Mister? The
No,
people
that's
who make
my
the
that's my
most
exact point. The
money
same
in the
people that are,
whole world. That's who, right?
yes,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
they're gonna flip the go switch now. So
Let's
maybe
go.
not financial advice. Not financial advice.
Yeah,
Good call.
yeah. We don't want to go too deep into that rabbit hole, but there is something to be said for. It's pretty well established that there's a lot of cronyism and a lot of backdoor deals that are made between politicians, lobbyists, banks, corporate entities. So we'll see how it all plays out. But BlackRock entering the market is a very significant milestone for crypto because they've been, as the largest fund in the world, and them being a big detractor and critic of crypto, to have them change their tune is significant. And in that regard, we should be excited. I mean, maybe it won't all turn out as picture perfect as we'd like, but I for one am pretty pumped about it.
Yeah, just getting that institutional money flow started is the news here.
Mhm.
Just the fact that the big guys, the biggest guys, are dipping their toe, and the spot ETF will follow, like you guys said, and then the regulations are gonna conform so that they can make more money, which will hopefully benefit retail traders as well.
Yeah. So, Mister, what was?
So how do you guys
was-
think? Oh,
Mhm.
well, actually, I just have one thought on that is, I totally agree with all that, and the adoption is great, right? Especially when you have that much liquid, you open up that kind of liquid
Right.
holdings to exposure. But what do you think about the politicians and the policymakers that are still very anti-institutional adoption, right? And that takes me back to,
They're just waiting
um,
for somebody to cut them a bigger check, man. That's
well,
it.
sure,
They'll
but
flip.
that for me, that calls into question the relevancy of even that narrative at this point, right?
Yeah,
What's
absolutely.
Nana Warren, what's Grandma Warren doing talking about Bitcoin anymore? If the tides have already shifted and she's back on the beach complaining about the last wave that already crashed while we're already out on the high tide on the high seas, right? It just for me it just really it's confusing, right? It's not even the frustration of just how irrelevant and just how incompetent that narrative is.
Yes.
It truly confuses me as to what her mission is or what's
Are you
driving
not
that
hearing
for her.
echoes of the Mark Zuckerberg trial when the judges weren't they didn't even know how to use their own phone, much less like decide the fate of Facebook? And
No, absolutely.
I
That's
feel
what
like
it
the
is.
same
Yeah.
thing is happening here, and it's like when you think about it, like okay, take Janet Yellen for example. Okay, she I'm not happy with her. First of all, I want to be open and upfront about that. Okay, she has no idea how cryptocurrency works. For sure, I promise you. Everything that she says about cryptocurrency has been told to her by an advisor, somebody else. So like top end isn't even really top end in our system, right? Because they don't actually know what this technology is. They don't actually know how to use it, and so, why are they the ones making the calls? And then they're not the ones making the calls, it's their advisors and the group around them telling them what to say on TV. So like, how is that supposed to work?
Well,
Yeah, they don't have the core competency in themselves, so they're relying on their advisors 100%. So then maybe the question, what's Nana Warren up to more, it's really who's manipulating her advisors, right? Who's taking them out to
Yeah.
dinner and who's got their ear at the moment. So yeah, no, that's a great point.
Anyway, let's move on to what's Mr. Mister's topic. What did you bring to the table,
My
buddy?
topic. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about policy. We're talking about not so savory activities, right? And we're talking about regulation. And so for me, the big thing that actually just dropped today, I believe it was today, if it wasn't yesterday, I'm pretty sure it was actually today, is the sanctioning of Tornado Cash. So I thought that was a big move. I thought it's fraught with interpretive leeway, right? There's a lot of ways to interpret this. And I thought we could talk about that for a second.
Give
And
me
for
the
folks that,
give me the
yeah,
TLDR
so
for it.
yeah, so the TLDR on that. So for folks that aren't too familiar with Tornado Cash, right? Tornado Cash is an open source tool, right? It's a piece of software that actually lives on the blockchain, and it's a tool that allows folks to mix coins, for example, like BTC or ETH, right? The purpose of mixing is to or to hide the origin, and really also to really just break the connection between an origin address and a destination address for things like BTC or ETH, right? So what they offer is a service where you can go and deposit your crypto assets. Let's say it's just BTC for now, and you'll deposit it into this pool, into this smart contract. And what Tornado Cash's smart contracts do is they pool all the different deposits within a certain period of time, and then they take that bag, right, that virtual bag, and they just like shake it up, right? They shake up all the different coins inside and say, okay, how many did you put in? Oh, you put in two. Let me just pick randomly two, or maybe it's point 0.2, right? But it's easier to deal in whole numbers for this analogy. You just take two, and it's not going to be the two you put in. It's some two other ones, and here we'll just give these to you. So
So
what
does
that
it touch a
effectively does,
privacy protocol at any point?
so it
Or
doesn't
are
touch a
these
privacy.
addresses still like traceable? Can't you like backtrack?
Yeah, they are fully traceable addresses. They're public addresses, but it breaks that chain. So it does
Mhm.
almost act like a privacy protocol just for that one transaction, that basically hides the for the destination address, it hides the origin. And for the
Gotcha.
origin address, it hides where the coins are being sent. And really that is a privacy tool, right? Because if you
Mhm.
do want your transactions to be private, but you're interacting with Bitcoin or Ethereum, there aren't it's just not integrated into the protocol, that privacy layer. So if you do want those private, the only thing you can do is to break that chain, right? To break that connection between the sending address and the receiving address, the sending wallet and the receiving wallet. Right. And that's what Tornado Cash does. It's open source software that lives on the blockchain, right? Anybody can go use it. And in fact, it's not just that anybody can use it, you can't stop anybody from sending you funds from a Tornado Cash address, right? And what I thought was really interesting is just today, the OFAC, the what is that? The Office of Foreign Assets and something, right? It's a U.S. regulatory body. They just placed Tornado Cash. Mind you, it's not a person. They just placed Tornado Cash on their list of sanctioned entities, right? The SDN. And what that means is Tornado Cash is now at the same level as like Vladimir Putin and any other of his cronies that have been sanctioned by the U.S. for their nefarious activities in Russia, right? Those folks are not allowed to interact with the U.S. financial system because list, and vice versa. By being on that sanctions list, no American is allowed to send money from these sanctioned entities, which are people, right? So what I thought was interesting, and maybe is I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on it, is we just had the first, what amounts to the first ever use of a financial sanction by the US government against not an individual or an address tied to an individual, but it's an actual sanction on a piece of code, right? They are sanctioning the smart contracts that operate Tornado Cash. And what that means for Americans is you are no longer allowed to send funds to Tornado Cash, and you are no longer allowed to receive funds from any Tornado Cash smart contract, right? At risk of criminal penalty. It is a criminal act, right, to send anything to Tornado Cash now. And it is also a criminal act to receive funds from Tornado Cash. That just really, I think, first of all, right, something like this, right, we saw the coin mixers kind of get into the crosshairs of regulation not too long ago. I think it was with Wasabi, right? So this wasn't unexpected, but the use of a sanctions list, I think, is super interesting because I think it does come with some constitutional questions, some First Amendment freedom of speech questions with it, but also I think it might start to set the stage for things like potentially considering smart contracts individuals, like
Hmm.
people, like how corporations are, a corporation is legally recognized as a person. This could set the stage for smart contracts being legally recognized as people. And I think that's just really interesting. But what do you guys think? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Do we need this?
I think
Is
the
this,
first thing and the most important thing that this means is that Tornado Cash works. And
yep,
it reminds me, I mean, if there was any other way for them to stop it, they would, Um, this reminds me of the $625,000 bounty that the IRS took out on, the Monero algorithm, that anybody who could break it wins $625,000. It's kind of in line with that, and the United States is notorious for, uh taking our toys away, you know, for whatever reason. Now, this is, obviously a more nefarious uh, situation than like prohibition, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think it falls in line with exactly what the United States would do to its citizens.
But to be fair, although there are some real world uses for Tornado Cash, the only ones I usually hear about are the scammers that immediately take, not the scammers, well, could be scammers, but the hackers that immediately move their funds to Tornado Cash, including, you remember that really big hack on Axie Infinity, which I believe was related to the North Korean government.
right.
They used Tornado Cash. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of reasons why that particular service would end up in the crosshairs of any government. Um, and I can't say that these
So,
hackers did us any favors by abusing that privilege, but I guess it goes back to like where you fall in that spectrum of Web3 crypto, and believing in that kind of decentralized financial apparatus. There's good and bad to it.
Mhm.
for me, I think what's frustrating is just the hypocrisy that comes out of this, right? Because yes, it is used for nefarious purposes, but it has, for every one hacking incident, let's not talk about it in terms of dollar scale of how much usage is on the nefarious side and what's on the above board side. But for every one hacker, right, that uses Tornado Cash, I would bet that there's a bunch of several dozens, maybe hundreds, who knows? But for every one hacker that uses it, there's probably tons of legitimate transactions that go through Tornado Cash, right? And to just put them on a sanctions list, put them on the same level. A smart contract is at the same level as Vladimir Putin from a sanctions perspective. It seems like a bit of an overreach because if it's going to be justified through the nefarious activities that are happening, right? Then why in the world why is Deutsche Bank not on a sanctions list? Why is the CEO and the chairman of the board of Deutsche Bank not on a sanctions list, right? Because there's way more money moving through that bank that's nefarious and has been proven to be so over the years than Tornado Cash.
Because this
I think
falls
it's
outside of their
mind-boggling.
system. This falls outside
Right.
of their
So
little
and that's
box of this game that they've created, and this is something that they have absolutely no control over, and so they're
right.
using
There's no
overkill
rules
to
for it
snuff
right
it
now.
out, cut the head off the
Yeah.
snake kinda deal, right?
Yep. Yep. Totally. So yeah, that's just where my frustration lies, and I thought that was something that maybe if the folks listening weren't aware should be made aware. Right. It isn't too late to make some noise with your own local politicians. If not, you want to write to your representatives at the federal level. Right. There is still time because sanctions lists are not set in stone. Right. They can be modified. So if that does bother you, I would encourage you to reach out. But for me, I think it does set an interesting precedent, right? If there is no pushback against this, and we do start to see smart contracts come under the potential to be sanctioned, then it worries me about what that's can do to innovation going forward, right? Who's
It
going to
wouldn't
want
even it
to?
wouldn't even have to be just a smart contract algorithm. It could be the Bitcoin algorithm,
Yeah, it could
right?
be a piece of code inside a smart
Yeah,
contract,
think
like I
about
said,
like if
right?
Bitcoin actually does start to overtake the US dollar, and I know blah blah blah, lots of speculation, but let's say that that were to happen. I mean, that's like their ace in the hole then. If we just let them willy-nilly decide, oh, you guys can't use that code. No. Or you'll get arrested. We'll arrest you if you use that code. It's better than
Well,
us.
I mean, in some ways,
But
it's
what about
not.
the
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, okay, so the sanction is a little bit extreme. I'm not sure how that's going to play out because there isn't really anyone to sanction, so it's kind of weird. And you can just spin up another instance, as far as I know. I don't think that you can, But that being said, there are a lot of DeFi sites that don't service Americans already, which sounds contrary to what DeFi is. But this is where, if you want to remain a law-abiding citizen and still participate in crypto within the bounds of whatever your particular government authorizes, it's if you don't have to. There just are things you're not going to be able to do. Like I can't. I'm going to say it wrong. I was mix it up. DXDY. Can't log on.
DYDX?
I mean, I can log on. I can't use it in the US. Right.
Yeah,
It'll-
I think it's
Right.
going to lead to a lot of people moving out of the country. Honestly, I mean, you hit whatever, $1 million, $10 million, $50 million, and like, why would I stay here where you're telling me I can't use any of these tools when they're decentralized and anybody in the world can use them? It's just you saying. So like, what's keeping us
Yeah,
here?
and exactly, and it now comes down to you, the federal government, is able to tell me, a private citizen, what open source code I can and cannot interact with,
Yeah,
right? That brings into question freedom of speech
that's a slippery
implications for
slope,
me.
sir.
It is a slippery slope because now what are you saying? Now you're saying it's almost the same thing as, hey, now I can't go check out a book at the library.
Mhm.
It's no different, right? This code is sitting on a shelf, right? That's open source. It's sitting on a virtual shelf for anybody to go and interact with, to read, to play with, right? It is open source. There is no owner. There is no entity behind it, right? And so, well, there was once an owner, I'm sure, but that my point though is having that library of code that is supposed to be free for all is now going to be policed, and you're going to tell me which book in that library I can or cannot read. That starts to become a real slippery slope for me. So sorry if I'm just harping on this. I'm a bit put off by this
No,
actually.
I like this
I
topic. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not one. I wasn't one to say that we don't need regulation, right? And if you go back through our podcast archives, I'm always one of the ones saying, and I think we're largely in agreement that regulation was necessary. It's just the crux of that regulation is necessary statement, though, lies in how that regulation is executed and how it's interpreted, right? And what legal wiggle room there is in any of this regulation
Yeah.
to do things like stifle free speech.
I agree with you that we do need regulation for cryptocurrency. I know I'm super like anti-regulation and pro decentralize everything all the time, but realistically, yes, I think it's a good idea to have regulation. The biggest problem I have with that is that the people with all the money already are the ones who are making that regulation for each other, for the game that they play. And I'm afraid that we're going to end up in a situation where they're creating regulations to conform, you know, Satoshi's original vision into the type of traditional financial infrastructure that we have today, where, most of us are at the bottom rung and being taken advantage of. That's what I'm afraid of.
Or left out altogether.
Or
right?
left out altogether. Yeah.
It's always an uphill battle if you're not part of that 1% or less than 1%. That's another thing I was talking about on social media this week. Someone was complaining about. So kind of a segue, but kind of related. One of, I think maybe the largest holder of Bored Apes had some issues where it was displaying wrong in OpenSea. And for those who trade NFTs, you know that OpenSea is notoriously frustrating to get customer support from. But they hopped all over his post and were like, "Hey, we got you, man. Don't worry, we're on it." And everyone kind of responded with like, "Wow, I guess all you need is like 20, 30 Bored Apes to get any sort of response from OpenSea." But my comment was, it's kind of a life lesson, whether you learn it in crypto or you learn it, in real life. Having money, sadly, generally equals power and influence. And it's really hard to combat that now more than ever. If the inequality between the rich and the not rich is extreme, and it's just kind of quietly happening behind the scenes that the rich, not even a meme, the rich are getting absurdly richer. And if you start Googling this and go down the rabbit hole, you'll see how sickening it is. And I feel like that's an appropriate word. When there's so many poor, starving, struggling people, even in countries that have a lot of money like America, there are a lot of poor people that struggle to live paycheck to paycheck. But yet the regulations, the laws, and everything seem to really just enable the rich to get richer and do very little for everyone else.
Well, the icing on the cake is the fact that we're paying our taxes to bail out the people who were ripping us off, like in 2008. That's unfathomable. Like, that's okay. That's just okay. And we've all just accepted that and moved on. You know what I mean?
They were taking
advantage of the poorest people in our country and setting them up for failure on purpose, knowingly.
Well, did you see the news? The IRS is trying, I don't know if it was approved. They're trying to get billions of dollars in new funding to hire, I think the number was like 87,000 new employees. Can you imagine? Now, in some ways, I do, based on what I read, I do agree that they were probably understaffed. I mean, they had to be. You think about the number of new investors that must be out there, the number of new ways that we can invest in all these new apps and crypto and Robinhood. Investing has become extremely popular in a way it never was 10 years ago, and more accessible in a way it never was before all these mobile apps existed, right? But 87,000 new hires, man. If anything ever made me want to like flee the U.S., that'll do it. But they claim they're going to go after the rich. But
that's what I was going to say. I hope they're all lawyers. They better all be lawyers.
They have to be.
That's the barrier. Because the rich, I mean, it's been said before publicly by a previous director of the IRS that they purposely target low income because we don't run them around in court over paying taxes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's not cost effective when you handle millions and millions of customers effectively, right? And you're going to pick who to audit. It's just it's less cost prohibitive to chase, say, the middle class than it is to go after millionaires or billionaires. So yeah, I have my doubts, man. They claim they're going to go after, people with money that are abusing the system or not paying their taxes or paying their fair share or whatever. But, on the other hand, if I was someone that, maybe I traded and made a bunch of money off of Doge or something this past cycle, and I didn't pay my taxes, I might be sweating a little bit. And this is our reminder, our 6-month reminder. It's not too late to pay your taxes. You can do it now. I mean, there'll be some penalties or something because you're late, but
it's better than jail though.
Yeah. I doubt they'll put you in jail unless you're really doing something crazy, but you're definitely going to have a lot of fees and it's going to cost you even more in the long run if you wait and hope they don't find you. If they're hiring 87,000 new people, and there's no way they're all going towards the rich, even if they are going after rich people.
No.
They have a whole big section on crypto.
A larger workforce to cover more of the low income.
I just can't wait for some of these meme coins and some of these really silly projects, the names of which I'm not going to repeat here on the stream, but to think about the IRS having to investigate those In fact, what was one of the trending NFTs this past week? Let me see. I don't want to.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not saying that name either.
Oh no, I'll say this one. I'll pardon the language in advance. Crypto dick butts. Pardon me. They've been trending. In fact, they've at least temporarily. I don't know how long this is going to hold up.
Dick butts are hot right now, man.
They've overthrown a lot of other top NFT projects, former or current blue chips, depending on what you look at. As a blue chip based on floor price, but. Yeah, they're almost at 4 ETH right now for a floor price, and there's not too many under 4 ETH. And in fact, there's like 8 under 4 ETH, which is ridiculous. I just refuse out of principle. I'll buy some silly things for fun sometimes, but come on. Yeah. I'm not chasing this pump halfway. I'm not chasing it now, man.
It just feels like NFTs like this that are going off like that. It's just like, it feels like money laundering with a smile, It's
funny. It is funny. I love looking at them. You can't deny they're really fun looking. And some of my NFT investments, it's because it's just really cute, or maybe if it's like there's a lot of reasons to get into NFTs, right? It's not just for investments. So I guess looking at the time, yeah, we should probably wrap up and move to the Q&A. I guess for my piece, the thing I would talk about is, because we didn't really touch on NFTs much here, it's more than investing. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are just a technology that enable you to do a lot of different things. They do make the underlying whatever, if it's picture, video, something related to gaming, it does make it tradable, which does give it inherently some kind of value to someone. But you're going to have a lot more fun, in my opinion, if you buy what makes you happy. If it's art that resonates with you, and there are some great artists out there, like genuinely like talented in real life artists. Some have galleries, and a lot of them are like underlooked in the NFT space because they're just not like native to the space, or they don't understand how to market themselves or whatever, right? But or in gaming, there are actually a few fun games, and a lot of other stuff, right? Buy what makes you happy. Don't make it only about chasing profit. And if you do, you're probably just not going to have as much fun. That's my 2 cents. Because I see these guys day in and day out. They buy, whatever. Let's say they got a Doodles or something, and now they're part of the Doodles family, and that's all they talk about now, and that's all they care about. And they'll argue with other projects that theirs is better, and I'm just using them as an example. This is it's so tribal out there, and it's sad that they're missing out on the best part, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a new age of art snobs, man.
It kind of is. It's kind of remarkable in that way, yeah. Tribalism among art snobs, but especially in this kind of market condition, it's not peak bull market for NFTs. Have a little bit of fun, buy some stuff that makes you happy. Maybe invest a little bit on the side. Sure, try and build up a portfolio of some blue chips or potential blue chips. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, does everything in crypto have to be about like making insane profit? We're allowed to have a little fun here, right?
I'm biased because I'm a trader. You go ahead, mister. I keep stepping on you this whole episode. Go ahead.
No, not at all. It's I think for me it is about having fun. And what for me, what does fun mean, right? It's not just about enjoying it and putting a smile on my face. Sure, it should put a smile on your face, but it should be fun in terms of something you're passionate about, something that you believe in, right? And so if you do have a problem with the way the current system works, for me, the passion and a lot of that fun comes in being able to participate and be part of building something that is truly, hopefully one day soon, the way all this works, the way all the corruption, right? And try to address some of the corruption, try to make it a fairer system. So in that way, there's fun to be had there, right? But then there's certainly fun to be had in just like Mr. Pap is saying, just enjoying the art, right? And truly being able to participate and being being a 21st century art snob.
Yeah, and a lot of these communities too, they do a lot of stuff online. Like one had a concert, like an online rock festival the other week. Another one we're meeting up in New York in a couple weeks for beers. There's a lot of other things going on, and then you expand. There's just all kinds of it. There's like some projects are trying to build movies or other projects are trying to do books with their intellectual property, you know, like your NFT, you know, you can vote and try to propose to get your guy in the book. And maybe it won't go anywhere, but you know what? It sounds fun to me to, you know, some of these just to play in the space. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. I can't even keep track. I mean, there's no way. There's just too many interesting ideas in different directions you can go.
Yeah, and there's a lot of goofballs out there too, and I think that's discouraging a serious air about the NFT world too. But when we get, you know, time will go on, and we're gonna shake the dick butts out, and
The dick
we're gonna
butts,
get.
right? Take it seriously.
Do we want to shake them out? I mean, they're
What
pretty
I'm
cool
saying
looking.
is we'll get to a point where you know, we've got some Rembrandts and Michelangelos and some real fantastic stuff, and there will be a more universal desire, you know, rather than a $4 million picture of a rock, right? And I think that'll be more significant as time goes on. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a long time, but I think
Yeah.
that digital art has a much bigger role to play in humanity, and I think NFTs are a really good way to secure a for sure identifier, a secure identifier to the original pieces, and time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's going to go way beyond art, right? I think it just kind of speaks to how early we still are in terms of the space overall, but certainly with NFT and like technologies, right? Because really, we haven't even started to see the proliferation of authentication of real world assets, right? As much as we have seen with the authentication of digital ownership of digital assets.
Yeah, like
And I
Hollywood
think
and the music industry is looking very intently at distributing their licensing through NFTs because it's so secure. And
Oh,
ticket
we should
sales,
talk about that, Mr. X, actually. I have an idea on that one. Let's take that one off there. But
Yeah.
I
So
do have some friends in that space. So we should
sounds
talk.
good.
We should talk.
yeah,
DMs are open.
you're right. I have seen a lot of other utility that has nothing to do with art, gaming, music, video for NFTs, but that's for another day because we're at the Q&A portion. So let's source a little bit of community questions. I did see a few earlier on.
Yeah, let me get it pulled up. I don't even have it up yet.
Let me see. And yeah, thank you to Voodoo 1985. Yes, you're welcome. It has been a fun conversation. I like this new format.
Me too.
Thoughts on ApeCoin? I don't think we need to say much. I mean, ApeCoin, I think, is going to be prevalent in the market just because of Yuga Labs' position within the larger crypto ecosystem. They have a lot of money. They did another fundraising round after they earned a lot of money. You know, they're here for a while. My personal thought is, you know, it doesn't hurt to have an allocation in ApeCoin, but I'm not going to tell you now is the right time to buy it. I have a little bag myself, but I can't say I pay much attention to it. Let's see. Well, here's an interesting one for you guys. Do you think ETH will overtake Bitcoin? And there's probably a few different ways you could frame that.
Oh, the flippity narrative is back. I love it.
I don't know, man.
I don't want to answer first.
I'll answer first.
Sure.
So with all the different technologies that they're implementing into Ethereum, I think that they might have a shot. They might have a shot, but I don't know if it would last. You know, I think we might hit a point where we flip. Yeah. But the thing is that they're implementing so much new code that at the same time it could break Ethereum. Now they've got a lot of really, really smart people on this project, but you have to understand that they're essentially like rebuilding the algorithm basically from scratch to implement like all this sharding technology and stuff. And if they don't do it right or well, then that could be very bad. But if it does work, then all of these bottlenecking problems and all the issues that we have been having with Ethereum and slowing everybody down and reducing innovation, it's all going to go away, and we're going to move really fast and really cheap on Ethereum, and it's going to increase liquidity extensively. And I think there will be a huge influx when that sharding starts working. So maybe, maybe that gives them an opportunity to flip Bitcoin for a little while and, you know, have that Xbox achievement in their stash. Who knows?
What would it take from a price perspective today with current supply on ETH to flip Bitcoin? Do you guys know?
I don't. Tell me.
I don't know. No,
Oh,
no, no. It's
let's
not a
look.
trick question. Yeah, yeah.
Well, from a market cap perspective, Ethereum's roughly halfway or half of Bitcoin's market cap right now.
See, that's not really unrealistic, because think about, there's literally hundreds of thousands of different tokens out there, right? On Ethereum network.
So you're saying we just need a 2x on ETH price right now to flip BTC if BTC stays flat?
Yeah, ETH BTC needs to double.
So see what I'm saying? That
That's
influx.
totally realistic.
Yeah, that
Yeah, that
influx
could
from
happen.
sharding, and if every project on Ethereum network gets moving, think of all the good ones that are being slowed down by those gas fees right now. Like, I don't even want to move my Shiba half the time, because it's like, you're cutting into like 3-5% of my holdings, because I'm not holding a lot. You know what I'm saying? But I don't even want to move it off the
Yeah.
exchange because, like, it costs so much. But with like a few cents or less than a cent, like, there's some networks that are super, super cheap. Zilliqa was the first sharding network to create a mainnet in 2017. They were the first sharding mainnet on the market. And they've always moved super cheap and super fast. I've been really happy with how their network operates. If Ethereum right now operated the way that I know Zilliqa does, at that speed and that cheap, I would use Ethereum tokens way more. And I know that's true for probably almost everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it has a ways to go, but I think the answer there is it's possible. It's not impossible. It would basically need to double against Bitcoin. You never know. If you add in the potential value locked into DeFi protocols on Ethereum, I think that's also, there's a lot of ways to measure this. But you could measure transaction volume, you could measure the value invested into Ethereum, you could, just measure the market cap of Ethereum. But I think in all cases, it has a potential. I don't think that invalidates Bitcoin's role in the market. I think it's that base layer for now. It's kind of that base layer of all crypto. So, let's see.
For me, I think I'd love to see the flipping. I think it's totally realistic, and I think that if that does happen, that's not a bad thing, right? I think because the crypto space is the crypto space. It's not one token. It's not one asset, right? It's the space, and I personally don't care what the market cap of ETH versus Bitcoin is, right? Because even if ETH flips Bitcoin, sure, that means that ETH market cap is greater than Bitcoin market cap. At some point, that may happen sooner, maybe rather than later. But that also doesn't invalidate the narrative for Bitcoin to be the store of value, right? And to become a little bit more of a stable asset, where Ethereum is the utility side, right? And maybe they can live together, and maybe they complement each other, right? And so for me, if that flipping happens, that means that Bitcoin's been moving a lot less, more, has less volatility than ETH has had during that time period, which I think is fine, right? Let's go with Ethereum. Let's use it as more utility. Maybe there's a little bit more speculation on that side, but then maybe that also means we cool down the speculation on the BTC side and start to really see it as maybe a store of value. Maybe it actually becomes comes more into play as an actual currency, right, to be used for transactions. So for me, I'm not a BTC hardcore maxi. I'm not a militant maxi, and I'm sure the maxis out there would. I'm probably going to get plain suit on my DMs in short order, but for me, it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? It's not a zero sum game, right? It is a space. It's an ecosystem that we're trying to foster as in its entirety, not just picking and choosing these one here and one over there kind of thing.
Yeah, I was talking about something like that with Austin Federa the other day on that AMA with Solana, and the ones that the project we said the ones that say they're the Ethereum killer aren't, and if you have that attitude that you're targeting other projects to take them down, to overtake them, then you're not the one, you're not the chosen one, because
that's
the
so
right
good.
attitude,
you have to say it.
yeah, the right attitude to have is that every single one of these projects should be trying to make better technology, period. That's it. Okay. Not that, oh, I'm going to bring down Ethereum and take all of their customers and blah, blah, blah. That's not the right attitude to have. And that's not the kind of project that I want to get behind. I want to get behind the project that says, here's a problem with humanity. And this is 100 lines of code that solves it. That's the project I want to get behind.
That's awesome. If you can solve humanity with 100 lines of code, you're hired, Mr.
Yeah.
Satoshi's white paper is only 9 pages, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
So someone said that this maybe is before we got into the mining discussion, but they were debating buying a significant amount of mining equipment for ETH over BTC, leaning towards ETH due to profits. Just to recap, if you didn't catch it, I wouldn't start mining Ethereum unless you want to risk moving to a less supported chain, or to Ether Classic. If you're going to mine now and it's only between those two, you probably want to do BTC or do some research and look at some other mineable stuff like even Litecoin.
Yeah. If you just go to CoinMarketCap, they've got a list of all the proof of work coins, and you can check that against a slew of other websites that tell you how profitable the equipment that you're purchasing is. The profitability calculators. So if you have a good alternative to migrate to after Ethereum is no longer proof of work, then it might not be a bad idea. But make a plan for the end of the Ethereum proof of work.
I like this guy. This is not a question, but this guy said, "Here comes Hurricane Cash." That's from from FU Riley. Yeah, nice one, man.
They changed 4 characters in the algorithm and renamed it. Done.
Yeah, Tornado Cash 2. Let's see. Oh, really? I didn't know this. I don't know if it's true. I've honestly never been on Tornado Cash, but it says Tornado Cash website was taken down and GitHub account suspended. Oh, I'd be interested to know if that's
right. And they've also blocked all contributions to the Tornado Cash GitHub.
Wow.
And I think that also speaks to what worries me so greatly, right? Because that right there is censorship on freedom of speech, right? This is open source code. This is freely available to all. It is a knowledge base as much as it is a tooling platform, right?
Yeah, this reminds me of when I was like in high school or maybe college years. They had that in the earlier days of the internet. They had that anarchist cookbook. Yeah, you guys I know you're old enough to remember that, Mr. It was just like how to make like pipe bombs, and like it was nothing too crazy, right? But they were worried kids would get
how to
this
make LSD from banana peels and orange peels.
Yeah, like
crazy shit,
like dumb stuff. But they were worried that kids would get this, right? But as far as I remember, they never actually made an attempt to like say ban it from the internet or something or make it illegal. Like you could technically download it. There's nothing illegal about knowing how to do these things. Just don't actually make, a pipe bomb and stick it in your school's toilet after hours. Because that's
I think there
not
were
gonna
some
end well.
instances where like people would be arrested for other things, and when they went through their computer, the Anarchist Cookbook was on it, and so the media would really super hype that up.
Yeah, well, and you got that for certain books too. It was like Catcher in the Rye or something, the classic that a lot of serial killers happen to have or something. So now they think it makes serial killers. I don't know. If one book's that dangerous, then kind of worried about the people that were reading it. How impressionable were they? Yeah, let's switch over. This is a good call, guys. Let me see, event chat. Any questions on the Discord side? Oh, maybe not, because...
yeah, they abandoned us already.
Well, I don't think it was opened unless I'm missing... Oh, there we go. I was looking in the wrong one.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I'm taking questions.
I don't think there was really.
How do I start mining? So, hey, here's a tip. There is a miner channel in the RCC Discord. At least there used to be. Tell me I'm not wrong. Is it still here?
Yeah, it is. It's still in there.
So if you have questions about it, that doesn't hurt. You can also find mining communities online, just, like another Discord or another Reddit community. So there are resources out there. And there's a lot of people that are very serious about that mining. So I don't think any of them will be shy about giving you advice on what to do.
If you really want to just get your feet wet, one of the best ways to start would be to go to bitcoin.org and follow the steps on their website on how to run a Bitcoin node. You can run a Bitcoin node on your computer and start to see and understand how mining works. This is not a profitable instance because I don't remember when they did it, but it was within the last few years. I think they removed the miner from their node because when Satoshi originally created the Bitcoin mining software, he had the wallet and the node and all the mining and everything was self-contained in this one piece of software. But I don't have a good understanding of it, but at this point, the mining difficulty is so powerful that like they just decided to remove it out of the software. So now there's independent softwares that you would actually use to profit from the mining. But if you want to start to understand how everything works, run a Bitcoin node, because you will actually be contributing to the security of the network by running that node. And you can see how the node works and why it works. And then you can start looking into different mining softwares for different proof of work coins. And that'll start you down the rabbit hole because they've got some really good information on their site on what it all is.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, secure the network if you're a believer. It's not a bad idea. Yeah, someone's mentioning that GitHub. Yeah, the GitHub and blocking that over Tornado Cash, that's a pretty big deal. There probably is some decentralized alternative to it, to be honest. I thought I remember something about that. But, is it going to be used by all the big corporations? Probably not. Let me see. I don't think I see anything else unless you guys do.
For the podcast, how long do you think crypto adoption will take? And actually, recently, Vitalik commented on this, and he said in the next 10 years is let me pull it up. I'll just read it. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
You can do another question while you're waiting for me to pull this up.
No, I was actually looking at some stuff here. As of 2020, I don't know if you guys knew, as far as this list, yeah, a global survey by Statista, Nigeria is was in 2020 was the had the greatest adoption of crypto. Like, how common is it? The U.S. was actually pretty far down that list, maybe like 7th or 8th place. I'd be interested to see that now. I feel like the U.S. adoption's surely caught up to much of the rest of the world.
Yeah, there was something I read recently about how we're at like 8%, and like after 8% or something, it skyrockets. Like commonly with other new technologies, I mean.
Yeah, it
As far
could.
as adoption.
Yeah, as far as adoption goes, it's like the first 8% of adoption is the hardest, and then after that, it's like really fast.
Yeah, I think a common comparison is the adoption curve for the internet, and it kind of was similar, right? Very slow at the beginning, and then by the
Okay, I
90s,
can't
it
find
really
it.
took off.
But he said something like, in the next 10 years is the point at which we stop speculating or something, and then it starts becoming actually utilized.
Where he sees real, yeah, he was talking about how it's going to see real utility, real use cases by then.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't now, but it's more of like we have a lot of good ideas, but due to many issues, it's not really truly accessible and useful to the average
it's a
consumer.
snowball thing. More people are going to work on it. Smarter people are going to work on it. People with, whatever higher up in the chain are going to work on it, and it's just going to keep snowballing, because like at its core, like I said earlier, like the original white paper was 9 pages, you guys, and it has absolutely shaken the world. Okay. And it all started with those 9 pages, and it's going to continue growing, because like at its core, Bitcoin specifically, at its core, that idea of decentralizing finance, taking responsibility for the value that you create, creating that value of Bitcoin through proof of work, specifically because you are exchanging energy from the universe and converting it into a medium of exchange. Okay, so all of those pieces together, that has not yet been replicated. Okay, but it is such a good core, simple idea that it's never going to go away. Like the wheel, like discovering fire, like the combustible engine and the internet and so forth. It's not going to go away. Other people will see its value, and they'll work on it, and they'll make it better, and somebody else will see it and work on it and make it better.
So I think we got 2 more questions, and then we'll probably wrap up here. One, I think, is an easy one. They're asking about Matic, and they missed out on buying it earlier, and that's fair, because that more than some altcoins really had a rally. My strategy would be, if I was doing it, I mean, we always say DCA, but if something's already taken off like Matic has, it's a lot riskier to buy in now. So either wait for a little bit of a retracement, and you might look at some analysts out there, or do some TA on your own to see where that might fall, if it is, or dollar cost average in, and don't sweat it as much. Depends on how big this kind of higher time frame move goes for the crypto market, for equities, how inflation looks in the next couple months. It's really hard to say, but yeah, Matic's been on a tear,
and it depends a lot on how long you plan on holding it too. So like,
true,
because like Poppy said, if you're looking for like a short term trade, like Poppy said, waiting for a retracement might not be a terrible idea, but it depends on what you see in the TA. But if you're holding it for, if you're looking at holding it for like 5 years, 10 years, then the difference between 30 cents and 94 cents isn't like really significant, assuming that you believe that it's going to make it that long. So it's like there's a lot of trade-offs there.
I do think Matic is probably one of the more promising on the chain.
Yes, I agree. But layer 2s come under threat if sharding is successful too. So it's like, yes, layer 2s are helpful for reducing congestion the Ethereum mainnet, but if there's no congestion on the mainnet because sharding works, what do we need layer twos for?
Ooh, deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point.
So
So
that's something you need to keep in mind for all layer two projects. Think about when we start cross chaining, when cryptos, because it's inevitable. Somebody's going to figure it out one day, maybe long after I'm dead, but somebody will figure it out. But these are things to think about, guys.
So for last question, this one's kind of a big one. And Mister, I'll probably toss this one your way because I think this is good to start with you. They say when you say good projects, which ones? And we're not going to go out and tag specific projects here because we don't. This isn't about giving financial advice, but we'll give some guidelines. Specifically, skip the specifically part. But what projects create real utility that scale? Real utility with cash at scale relative to market price. Basically looking for use cases that exist today and create cash flows.
Yeah, and I think you took the words right out of my mouth there, Pat. I think good project for me, well, maybe I'll just answer from a DeFi perspective because that's kind of where I focus a lot of my time. But from a DeFi project perspective, what makes it good? You want to look at solid tokenomics, and there's a laundry list of what makes good tokenomics, right? But at a really high level, you want to make sure that the allocation of the supply is not overly controlled in any one place, whether it's 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 place, whether it's